Before we begin, please take a second to like and subscribe, as it helps out the channel a lot. Thank you. I want to start off by saying I don't get scared easily. I'm a nurse, and I've worked the night shifts at many hospitals for the better part of 5 years. I've seen overdoses, gunshot wounds, psych patients in full-blown breakdowns. You get desensitized to a lot of dark stuff after a while. But what happened to me on this one particular night back in 2019 still creeps me out. It wasn't anything violent or illegal, but just the weirdness and the thought of how it could have ended creeps me out to this day. At the time, I was living in a cheap apartment in Berwyn, a working-class suburb just outside of Chicago. It wasn't much, but it was close enough to the Metra BNSF line, which meant I could get to Union Station without needing a car. I worked nights at a hospital downtown as an ER nurse. I had just graduated the year before and was trying to pay off my student loans as fast as I could, so I took every single overtime shift they offered. I'd usually leave work around 11 p.m. and catch the 11:35 westbound train from Union Station. If you've ever ridden a late train like that during the winter, you know the vibe. Cold, dark, quiet. Most of the train is empty, except for a few exhausted people staring at their phones or dozing off with their heads against the window. That night, it was snowing hard. The kind of snow that sticks to your eyelashes and muffles everything. I remember walking through the city to the station, barely any cars or people on the road. The station was nearly deserted. The train arrived on time. I got in the second carriage from the back, as usual. There were maybe 3 people total in that carriage. One was a woman near the front with a large bag. She looked exhausted and was dozing off. Another was a man in a rumpled suit, snoring softly in his seat halfway down. The third was sitting in the very last row of the carriage. He caught my attention right away, but not for any specific reason. He was wearing a forest green parka with the hood down and a gray beanie pulled low over his forehead. His hands were in his lap. He didn't have a phone out or anything. He was just resting. I picked a seat about 10 rows up from him, near the window, facing forward. The train pulled out of the station, and I put my headphones in, started playing some ambient music, and leaned back. I was exhausted. About 10 minutes in, I had this weird feeling. You know when someone's watching you, and you can feel it? I turned my head slightly, pretending to check something out the window, and glanced back. The guy from the last row was now standing. He was in the middle of the aisle, facing straight ahead, not moving, not holding on to anything, just awkwardly standing there. I figured he was stretching his legs, maybe heading toward the bathroom, but he didn't move. He just stood there for what felt like a full minute. Then he sat back down. I ignored the weirdness and went back to my music, a little uneasy, but still trying to be logical about it. Maybe he was just not all there in the head. Whatever. 5 minutes later, I saw movement again. He was standing up again, then sitting, then standing again. It was methodical, like he was pacing in his head, like he couldn't make a decision. I paused my music and took my earbuds out. I could hear the quiet creak of the floor beneath him every time he moved. I turned fully this time to look. He was looking right at me, not casually, not like I caught his glance. He was already looking directly at me. I froze for a second, then quickly looked away. I told myself I was overreacting. Trains at night bring out all kinds of odd behavior. You mind your business and get home, that's the rule. But then I heard footsteps approaching me, not fast, not loud, just slow steps coming up the aisle. I glanced to the side as he walked past me, didn't even glance at me. He just walked 3 rows ahead, turned, and sat down in one of the few reverse-facing seats. Now he was sitting directly facing me. I didn't know what to do. My gut said to move, but I also didn't want to look paranoid, or worse, escalate something. So I stared at my phone, pretending to scroll. He just stared. He never looked away, just sat there with this weird neutral expression, like he was observing me. A few minutes later, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, grabbed my backpack, and made my way toward the back of the car. The second I stood, so did he. I didn't look at him. I kept walking. I slid the door open to the next carriage, stepped into the cold air between, then into the next carriage. This carriage was empty except for one sleeping man near the front. I sat down 2 rows behind him. I felt safer being near someone, even if they were asleep. About 30 seconds later, I heard the door open behind me. I didn't turn, but I knew it had to be him. He had followed me for sure. I stared down at my phone screen, trying to appear calm, but my hands were shaking. I heard his footsteps slowly approaching. Then, he sat directly behind me. Now I could hear his breathing. It felt like he was breathing right onto my neck. I texted my friend Paul, who was a night owl and usually up late gaming. I explained the whole situation and told him to check the train cams in case something happens to me. I waited for a reply. Nothing. Right at that exact moment, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was so soft I almost thought I imagined it. I turned my head, heart pounding. He was leaning forward, face close to mine. It was the most uncomfortable I've ever felt. Before I could ask what he wanted, he spoke softly and told me that I shouldn't ride the train this late. At this point, I was sure he wasn't all there mentally, so I just didn't respond. I kept my eyes on him. He leaned back, stood up again, and walked to the back of the carriage. At the next stop, Western Springs, he got off. He walked aimlessly into the dark, snowy night without looking back. It looked like he didn't know where he was going. I stayed in that carriage until my stop arrived. I didn't move from that seat. I kept replaying our interaction in my head, thinking about what he wanted or why he chose to follow me specifically. I filed a report the next morning with Metro Security, but they said unless a crime was committed, there wasn't much they could do. I still ride the train sometimes, but I try to avoid night rides. I don't want to bump into him again.